I call to order this District of Clearwater Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, the something of, because it's not on here, 18th of March for 12:30. And then I will turn the chair over to Councillor Matheson to run this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just move on to 3.1, adoption of the agenda. There's a recommendation that Committee of the Whole agenda be approved as presented. Seconded. And all those in favor? And it's passed. Declaration of conflict of interest? Nothing. Delegations? Nothing. Adoption of minutes of Committee of the Whole meeting? Minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held March 4th, and recommendation that the minutes of the, are there any changes, errors, or omissions? Almost said emissions. The recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held March 4th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Moved.
Mover, seconder, Councillor Bratton. And all those in favor? Passed. Unfinished business, and move on to new business. 8.1, strategic and operational plan update. And CAO able to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the point of this report is the strategic update, which staff has been directed to bring back on a quarterly basis. So as you'll know, going through the plan, there is some changes to it. And I would just like to first review what those changes were. Mostly it's presentation type changes, but there's a few other substantive changes. So the actual strategic plan of council is on page 43 of 56. So we didn't change the wording on there, but one thing we did do was we added numbers to the actual focus areas. So the point of numbering that is to make it easier to tie in the strategic action plan to the strategic focus areas we're trying to achieve. And the goal there is that theoretically you can look at the action plan and say, what does this tie to? And go back and find the actual strategic focus area. Now, having said that, when we put this together, we only put the one that in staff's perspective, when you go through the action list, best relates to the strategic plan. In some of the action items, they actually relate to 2 or 3 or more of the items of strategic focus areas, but it gets so confusing if you add too many that we just thought the main one it deals with is this area. So that's the rationale behind the strategic focus area at the back. Again, could relate to a few more of those, but those are, it's the key one where staff felt it pertains to this area. So that's the numbering on it. One of the things you'll note is on the, I call it the color report, which is it's our report card. We've actually taken a lot of items out of the report card. And this report card used to be a big behemoth report that was about 8 pages with multiple colors, and it included strategic items, it included operating items, it included capital items, it included special projects. But the focus of this report truly is to give a strategic update. So staff went through this and we said, okay, looking at this through the strategic lens, what are the items that should be in front of council to talk about strategy? For example, one of the items that used to be on this list that was presented to council was, for this year, was replace filing cabinets. Well, yes. Frankly, we respect your time more than having too many conversations about replacing filing cabinets. I'm not saying they were all of that nature. It's obviously a bit of an extreme example, but we've tried to pare it down so you can really deal with the strategic focus areas. And council, as you're completely aware, you are the governors. You are the governors of this district. You're not the actual day-to-day managers. And that's, a very obvious statement. But the implications about that are deal with the strategic items. We're not preventing any information. You're free to ask us questions about anything. You're free to send us questions and we will send you back responses. So it's not about limiting information. It's about focusing what goes out to to yourselves as council, but this is a public document, so focusing what goes out to the community as well. So that is the reason for the changes, and I'm just going to go through a couple of other little parts of this then on the background of my report. So the purpose of a strategic plan, to provide direction to staff regarding the vision for the district, but equally important, I think, is to allow the residents and the other people in the district to know, where's council going? Like, what are the important things there? So attached, as I said, to the strategic plan is it's our report card on strategic items. I talked about the 11 initiatives being numbered and directly referenced. We removed operational items from the report card. Capital items were removed, unless there's a strategic component to it. You'll note there's still a few capital items on it, but that's because there still is a strategic component. Onto the discussion section. This was based on the opinion of staff. It looks like there's a few areas where we think there's gaps in the strategic plan, which is on page 43. And the gaps identified is, we talk about infrastructure throughout this whole plan, but we don't really have a focus area for infrastructure. Kind of fits under a few different areas, but as you know, at the district here, infrastructure is a huge topic, as it is in every municipality. But the things we were currently talking about are DCCs. We've had conversations about the siphon, the water main. How are we going to, what are we going to do eventually around the need for a new reservoir, some of our water systems issues, the potential for water metering, all kinds of different things what are really need an infrastructure lens, as well as, of course, our one that's been on the list for a long, long time, which is asset management. So staff's suggestion is to add an infrastructure category to the strategic plan, and then use that to kind of aggregate some of the work we're doing, and to allow the community to know that infrastructure here is a huge topic. It affects everything. It affects housing. It affects everything that we do. And sometimes it's easy to lose focus on infrastructure, but at its most basic level, that's one of the key reasons that we're here as a municipality, is infrastructure. We're providing services that are critical, and we need to always be keeping that in focus. So another area we thought we could use an upgrading in the strategic plan and more profile for is economic development. And we've got a lot of questions still facing us as a council around economic development. What's the best way forward? We're getting a report in our regular council meeting today from the contract person that we had this last year, right? So you get a sense for it. But some of the questions we have moving forward is, how do we support this into the future? What are the tie-ins that we can do? I mean, we've been talking about OCP development. That RFP will go out very quickly. What are the things in the OCP that can tie to more economic development? What are the things that can make it easier for business starts? Economic development is critical for us, and even more critical as time moves on, given the shift away from industry and some of those shifts that have occurred over the last number of years. I think we really need to drill in on economic development as a focus area in the strategic plan. And finally, one other thing that seemed to me to be a bit of a glaring lack in our strategic plan was public safety. So public safety, some of the key areas we're working on is Highway 5 safety. I know the mayor is very engaged with Highway 5 safety concerns. The helipad proposal is at its root is about public safety. And then, of course, ongoing compliance and enforcement issues within the district would have a big impact on a number of other areas in our strategic plan. So under the healthy communities strategic focus area, I believe we could put some wording in there under community safety and public safety. I think it's a big enough topic area. It is a focus for us. We want the community to know we're working in those areas, and we want staff to know, and obviously we do, we're right here, but we want staff to be focused on those areas, right? So those are our suggestions going in. I'm not saying that's the only suggestions. Obviously, council has the right to have input on this. In our closed session today, we're actually going to open the discussion again, so that if there's areas, we've got a finite term left to this council before the next election cycle. But if there's other areas, understanding there could, with a lot of ideas, with any idea, the question is how do you resource it? But I think that's something that specifically that we should be talking about in the in-camera session, if there's other ideas of council that you want to add to a focus area. But those are the ones that staff suggested, and they were so already built into the planning, but kind of not addressed specifically, that we thought that it could be used, or the strategic plan could use that inclusion. And if council is amenable to adding those areas or any other topics, one way to go would ask staff to bring back specific wording and actions to a future council meeting to encompass that, and then where council could take a review of. I know in the past that the district council has invested a huge amount of time into the strategic plan. I understand there were lots of meetings and lots of processes, and this seems like a really kind of it's not trying to shortcut the process, but given that there's a limited window left of this council's duration before the election, I don't know that there's a lot of value in re-engaging in one of those great big drawn out processes. But again, that's at council's discretion, whatever council determines it would like. So having said that, that was a very long-winded introduction. The report card is attached. It's the colorful one there. We're open to answering any questions that we can have. And if we don't have the answer because we're missing some of our key people or are not here for various reasons, training and whatnot. So if there's questions we can't answer, we'd be happy to get back to you on them. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Any questions? Councilor Herring.
So, to be clear, are you looking for ideas around adjustments to the strategic plan now, or is that a discussion that's happening at a later time?
Excuse me. Thank you, Councillor. I think if there's new strategic items you want to add, I think that conversation is best suited in the in-camera meeting that we're having, and it's actually a topic for our in-camera meeting after the regular council meeting, and specifically in the community charter. Strategic planning is one of those items. If you're developing new plans, then you would actually do that in an in-camera basis until we see what that is.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Sim.
First of all, thank you. I so appreciate that summary and that direction, the time that you and staff put in, and I think we're all very relieved not to see filing cabinets on there. There was a few ones that we always sort of wondered about, and that was terrific. On the report card, could you just identify or explain what inactive means?
Which ones are Thank you. And they would be, thank you, Councillor, they would be inactive for the fact, some of the might be that it's hit a snag in the process or we're seeking further direction. So if you look at the first one on the list, the compensation review for council, there was a compensation review done for, this used to be a double barrel one where it's staff and council compensation review. There was a compensation review done on the staff side, which was completed, as council is aware, and worked its way into our operating budget. But the compensation review for council is inactive. I think what we're at this point of seeking further direction from council of, would you like a compensation review done? Would you like it done the logical time, just on that specific example, would actually be to do one now for the next council, so that council isn't making decisions that are going to impact their own paycheck. It's decisions which will hopefully encourage a broader section of the community to be able to partake in council meetings because they're getting paid a reasonable amount for what they're doing, but also hopefully reflect the amount of work that goes into being a counselor. But we're waiting for direction. So if council wants us to proceed with that, we would like to see some, we would like to see that proceed. We would like to get some further direction on that issue. So, but everyone is inactive, I guess, for different reasons, and some of them haven't been started yet. So, thank you, Elsa. Some have been started, some are inactive, but we will be. I guess it's different reasons for different ones. If you look down the first page a little bit to website update and communication strategy, well, that's been inactive because we've been waiting to bring a person involved who's going to be involved more in the communication side. If you look at, sorry, I missed a couple. SIMF MOU, we've done our first work on it, and now we're waiting to get that signed up on their side. So we're kind of in a holding pattern on that.
And on that one, according to the newspaper, they're ready to go.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it's also them and Barrier. So they're looking to schedule an opportunity to sign these books.
So supplemental to that, what I'm wondering is because I think that that's really important, but if you're looking at this as a report card that's public facing, is there room to change some of these inactive to pending? So the MOU is actually a really important one, because if anybody just took this at face value, they might think, oh, nothing's being done on it. So even, I know we're trying to move away from color coding, but I do see that there could be room for orange, as in progress or something. Whereas the example of the website development, I mean, that's in budget 2027. So is it even need to be here is another question. Or are we attaching everything that's included in the budget in this plan?
Thank you. And through the chair, that's good feedback. So we will take away and work on that. I think that's really good feedback. We don't want to be given that this is a public facing document, we don't want to be giving the wrong impression. So we'll take that away and work on it. And maybe there's room for a bit of a description, and with each of those inactive, maybe the description in the comments should be, why is this inactive? What's the next step on this, right? Because they're not inactive because we're just ignoring them. Typically, they're inactive waiting for that thing. That's great feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for the changes to the document. I saw the original report during agenda setting, and it was significantly more pages, and the vast majority of the items that have been removed are things that are either operational maintenance or small capital purchases and things like that, that really are just things that staff need to do to accomplish the work that the District of Clearwater does. So clearing it out to the things that are within the sort of governance of council / the strategic plan. And I really do love the number coding on the side to say where that goes, because that really, when we're talking about what is council going to do next as far as advocacy, we can start grouping those things that are probably going to fit together for future advocacy opportunities. Thanks.
Councillor Sim?
Thanks. The other one that I noticed on there was the retrofit of the tennis courts to the pickleball. And I don't know if that's a topic that actually requires any public feedback, or if it just goes forward, or what the thoughts of staff, because rumor has it in other communities that can often elevate tensions. So was there something more to it, or anything that could be conveyed? Again, if somebody looked at it as isolated, is this just a done deal?
Thank you. And the reason, first off, that it's on the strategic list, even though it seems like a relatively small little project, is because it's conversion of one service to a different type of a service, right? So it's a change in the service offering we're doing. If you look at pickleball, where it seems 90, maybe 95% of the discussion is nearby residences hate the sound of pickleball. And it's not just the senior citizens yelling at each other, it's the sound of the ball batting, getting back and forth. So what we're talking about, and sorry, that was an unfair cut at senior citizens. But what we're talking about here is down at the tennis courts outside of the arena, which is actually in a great location because there's no residents really close to that, right? So I think it takes away some of that problem. So to me, this is an easy conversion. I don't know if there's any more discussion what needs to happen on this. Roger's not here. I think he's been leading the charge. I don't know if he's fully had the discussion with tennis users. Are they okay? You know, what's the back and forth there? So I'm not sure that I can answer that question adequately, but I know as far as being an early conversion or an easy conversion, that would be a pretty easy one as far as changing it, upgrade it. We need to upgrade the courts a little bit. There's drainage issues around those courts, I understand. And the public impact on it from non-users should be pretty minimal.
Great. And I think that just on that, because we've talked about the tennis courts quite a bit. So with that, I don't remember there being anything in the budget that attached to doing some of those upgrades. Did I miss that?
Well, it is a 2026 project, so it doesn't impact the current budget. I think the actual upgrades themselves is more of a line painting exercise and relocation of the nets. I don't think it's a really capital intensive project. So it may not be specifically addressed in 2026, but I presume it could be done for a pretty modest price would be my guess.
Yeah, so I think that that's my question around budget and looking after those parks and recreation assets. I mean, I think that we're no different than a lot of other communities. We do see a lot of popularity around pickleball, and the state of the courts. It is important to sort of maintain those. Once you start getting cracks and different things, it changes it, and it's a great asset. Like, it's such a good asset. So that might be something to flag for discussion on there. And then if I may, my last question is that 37 East isn't on here, and you've just discussed that this is more strategic and versus operational. But there seems to be a lot of strategy in the fact that particular land base goes through so many iterations of discussion.
Thank you. Great question. So 37 East is kind of subsumed under the whole Dutch Lake corridor.
Okay.
So it's considered, and there was a question that came through, I think you did it around email, around 37 East and when that park development. So my understanding, and in discussion with engineers on this topic this week, they said their vision is that this year they've done quite a bit of engagement. They're going to bring that back to council in a really easy to understand format with lots of pictures and blow-ups of the area, and then what can be done with the goal of kind of finalizing council's plans this year, building that into the budget for next year so that we can go ahead with it. So the timing is any of the specific capital items, and it came around about a gazebo that the intent is to put into that 37 East Park, but the engineer said, we haven't designed it. We've got some roadway issues there. If we put a gazebo in place, what happens if it's not the right place? What happens if the design that council accepts or that council prefers requires it to be moved? That would be taking a false step forward. So what we want to do is have that full vision to council, have the discussion with council, come up with a plan, and then cost it from there and put it in the budget for next year, including the full 37 East development.
So again, because this is a forward-facing public document about a report card, do you see that maybe there's something to be discussed that's Dutch Lake Corridor and 37 East together?
Yeah, we're happy to add that to the actual verbiage. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Oh, just sure.
Councilor Sim.
The other question that I have, and perhaps you want to answer it in the in-camera, is where you stand on having a strategic part of let me just get this. So where you have strategic action, and then do you see any ability that we could maybe actually attach goals for the coming year and then future goals as part of the strategic plan? Or do you think that that's best left for the next council?
I would be happy to accept council's wisdom on that. I do think that we've got a pretty full slate of activities we're working on. We take direction from council. If council says no, put this or add some goal setting to this. We're open to the concept. The strategic plan itself does have goals there. So you've got goals listed under each of those focus areas. So it gives us some direction. The areas where I suggested we add some focus areas, what I would do then would be to put some goals around those focus areas and bring those back to council for ratification before we just put those into the plan. But as far as a detailed goal and action plans around each of these, I don't know how much value there is in a really kind of in-depth strategic review.
Yeah,
I guess.
and I completely appreciate
I'm struggling
that.
with that a bit.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I was only looking on your past experience and what you might want to bring to our area, and just relying on that.
Thank you. And from my past experience, the way the goals are stated under strategic planning, it is pretty much where most municipalities have. They have what their focus area, and then they have a statement what our goal is under that focus area. So I don't think it's a bad strategic plan. And if I gave that impression, I apologize, because I think it's a solid strategic plan with a few gaps in it. So I don't think at this point there's a lot of value in doing a major rebuild to it.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Oh, sure.
Councillor Sim.
So what I wondered about after reading your report on the weekend, and I appreciated the comments that you had about public safety.
Yeah.
Where do you see us maybe, instead of just sticking to 3, is we actually maybe move to 5? So for example, infrastructure, economic development, which you've suggested could be more fulsome. Keep partnerships, collaboration, and advocacy, and then add public safety because it seems to have quite a breadth, and then keep healthy community as a separate one.
Well,
We can talk about it.
thank you. So we already have partnerships
Yeah, we do, totally.
listed. So if there's a
No, I'm saying keep that. I'm saying actually add, because we've only got 3 areas in what we currently have, and you're suggesting maybe adding some things. So I'm summarizing what I think I'm hearing you saying for 5 in total. Is that right? Do you want me to say them again? I talk fast.
I'm hearing some chirping in my ear.
It's not me, I'm over here.
No, I get that. So I think it's 3, but I'm open to 5.
I'm putting it out to council to discuss after I see that Councillor Herring has got it. I'm just seeing with the public safety, you've identified some really concrete things that are big and they're important, and they involve things like traffic safety, regulations that involve provincial partnerships. I don't see that being recognized under just healthy community. I think it's more. I think it is standalone personally, but I see Councillor Herring. So
Councillor Herring.
So I just noticed that like some of the strategic focus areas, those numbers don't actually appear in our work plan, right? Like, number 1, for example, adapting to provincial downloading. That's something that we're doing, but it's not something that's on the work plan necessarily. And that's true of number 10 and 11 as well. Like there's elements of other projects that touch on it. I think it's maybe worthwhile us revisiting this list and not with the intent to expand the plan dramatically, but maybe to pare it down where there's some redundancy. The difference between enhancing regional collaboration and partnerships, for example, right? They're roughly referring to the same thing. As always, advancing healthcare, not our job, not a fan of having that on there. Public safety, on the other hand, love it. But, you know, it's one of those things, maybe we can cut this list, and maybe that's a discussion for the next, that, you know, whenever we want to actually discuss the specifics of the strategic plan.
Counselor Sim.
So just on that, and I just want to clarify where you stand, because I think council's voted to move ahead with the Class A or B helipad, which seems to have a direct correlation to healthcare. So just clarifying where we stand on it, given our budget.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to clarify? Because
No,
I can read the Constitution.
It's just that you're saying it doesn't, but it's a strategic, and it's in the budget, and it's got a fairly significant one. It's just something to acknowledge.
Like, I can ask Siri who's responsible for healthcare in Canada, and I'm going to guess that local government is not on that list. The helipad is related to public safety, which I would argue is within our realm of control. But that's, you know, something we can maybe discuss if we want to have a specifics conversation about what's involved in our strategic plan.
Yep. Further discussion? There's a recommendation the council receive the strategic plan update for information, and the council provides direction for updates to the strategic plan.
So moved.
And all those in favor? Passed. Moving on to 8.2 then, draft financial plan, staff report, and if Ms. Clausen can speak to this.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council. Today I'm presenting the draft financial plan for 2025 to 2029. Oh, I thought it was. Excuse me. There we go. Today we're looking at two resolutions. I'll just read them out just so you can keep them in top of mind as we go through the presentation. That the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that staff commence preparing the 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw based on a revenue generated from taxation at 7.9% over 2024, and that capital and special projects will be included as amended by Council. The second one is an early approval for a project. That the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that the sewer security project for $45,608 and the water security project for $171,708 receive early approval. Today we'll talk about the financial plan changes that we've made over the recent about a month. Some highlights, property tax impacts, and next steps. We've seen this slide before, and we've gone through the process. So we're nearing the end of the process. The next step that we see is to start beginning the financial plan bylaws and adoption. The adoption of the financial plan bylaw and the tax rate bylaw must be adopted and submitted to the provincial government by May 15th. So that means that the staff will need to submit it on May 14th. And that is legislated by the government, by the provincial government. So here we have some of the changes that have occurred over the last month. A lot of the changes are, I would put them in the category of housekeeping. As we go through the process, we have, ensured that all the costs that occurred in 2024 are booked in 2024, and the carry forward costs are adjusted as appropriate. So a majority of these are all carry forward costs. So we've included the air handler for $24,000. Council saw a resolution of that last time we met. We've also, and it goes up and down, but the total adjustment is an increase of $24,000. There was and of course, we included the security upgrades. We moved the 2026 portion into 2025 so we could complete that project in 1 year instead of over 2 years. On the right side are the special project changes, and again, many of those are carry forward amounts. Some had to be adjusted up and some had to be adjusted down based on the invoices that we saw come in 2025 or 2024 expenses. So it's called cutoff, and so we were doing that analysis during that time. The last one is a climate action plan. We've increased that project by $40,000 as we are hoping to apply for a grant to cover that expense. And then for the operations, as we go through the operations, we've reviewed some of the operation amounts, and they've had an impact on the amount required for taxation to generate taxation revenue. The first item I went through and I reviewed the interest rates, and we all know the interest rates are falling. I can't expect to have the same interest rate as I had in 2024 as I will in 2025. So I have reduced our interest rate revenue, the portion that we can use for general expenses, by $68,000. So if I had to reduce that, I think that would be, it wouldn't be good for us to think that we could get the same amount of interest, for sure. We also had an email going out to council about what you prefer to have for conferences and travel in the next year in 2025. And so we've included that for those people that have responded and also adjusted for those people that weren't able to respond. And then we've done some housekeeping. We reviewed insurance. Insurance went up about $10,000, and we did some changes in overhead allocations and things like that. So that cost us $12,000. So if we did nothing, we would have to require an additional funding of $104,000. So then I said, okay, so that's going to be hard for us to generate that revenue from taxation. What can we do to reduce that a little bit? I looked at the reserves, and I said, okay, so perhaps we can reduce it by $40,000. The reserves that we had going in for IT infrastructure was quite high at 50. So I brought that down to 30, and that's quite consistent with what we've done in the past. So we did that. And also I've reduced the fire capital reserve. It was 155, but that included the turnout gear. And since we're taxing for that turnout gear as well, I thought, well, maybe we can bring that down by 20. It's not a lot of money, but it helps. And finally, I also looked at the additional money we put aside for the roads contract, the savings we had in 2024. I brought in some of that savings into 2025. So again, we can reduce that. So we were, in that method, I reduced it by $65,000, resulting in a $39,000 additional funding through taxation required. Just quickly, I'll go through these because you've heard the same slides before. You've seen the same slides, but just some quick highlights. We have $2.8 million in capital projects, $1.4 million in special projects. Most of our capital is funded through grants at 56%. A net impact to reserves and surpluses is a decrease of 1.1 million, which is improved over last year. Last year we had it improved 1.3. So last year we had a net decrease by 2.4. So this is a good thing, good trend. And debt repayment of $35,000. And just to see it, where is that money being spent? It looks like a whole bunch of boxes. But the big box here is you could also refer to your project list, but the big box here is the bridge work that we're doing there. Lots of work we're doing in protective services, so that the tender truck that we had ordered is going to come in 2025 and didn't come in 2024. We have water services, NTSP work, parks and recreation, etc., for capital projects. Does anybody have any questions about capital projects? Just to, how do we fund our capital projects? 56% is funded through grants. 39% is funded through reserves and surplus. Reserves is $1 million. Just to put in perspective, reserves is $1 million and surplus is about $40,000. So it's mostly through reserves. So we've saved up money to do that in the future. Councillor Sim.
Just for anybody who might be listening, one of the discussions that we're having at the school district about surplus and reserve. So I wonder if you could just do a quick tutorial and just a refresher on the difference between surplus and reserves and their importance to a budget.
So most of our reserves are for a specific purpose, and it can also attach to a specific bylaw attached to it. So if you have a reserve that's called a fire capital reserve, it might say put any surplus you have in the fire department into the reserve.
So would you say it's like a savings account?
Both of them are somewhat a savings account,
Okay.
but the reserves are for a specific purpose as per the bylaw, and it gives you direction on where to put it. And it also restricts you how you use it. So you cannot use a capital reserve for operating.
So maybe a reserve is more like an RESP,
Yes.
educational savings account or whatever, has a specific focus. Okay.
Yeah, and surplus is quite different. It's what's left over after you've had maybe you increased your revenues from one thing and you decreased your costs, so you have an additional surplus. It could also be said you could have a deficit, which is what we cannot do here.
Thank you.
Welcome. So this is our draft operating financial plan. It includes both special projects. So we have $1.4 million of special projects included in this budget. If on the left side is all the revenues coming in. So it comes from property taxes, sales of services, grants, reserves, surplus, and other. Other includes insurance and interest. So those are all your revenues coming into the organization. It's $8.8 million. And off to the right is all your major expenses by area. For example, you have that special grant. That's we're expecting some of the X-ray machine to be coming through and things like that. So those need to be paid out. So those are monies going out. And we have protective services, general services, and debt. You see that. And you see in the bottom there, you also see $1.2 million in savings going to reserves. The wonderful thing about accounting is it needs to balance. What comes in needs to go out. So the one important thing is if I took out the operating or the special projects out of the $8.8 million and the special grant, just to keep the lights on, basically in the day-to-day stuff, it's $5.7 million. If we did change nothing. Most of that is operating expenses are about $3 million, like 55%. A large portion, 2.6 million, is our labor, salaries, and services and benefits, 44%. And this is our savings plans and the surpluses. These are the changes. So you can have a look at this and you can see that the darker blue, it means that we're adding money to the reserves, and the Lighter blue means we're taking down the reserves. So you can see that we've added general operating $6,000, not a lot. We're not adding much there. That was basically for the election, extra money we're putting away. The art reserve, that's a new one. So we've added 5,000 to the art reserve. The Wells Gray Community Forest, that's where the x-ray machine and things like that would be coming out of there. The adult education, we've added some interest and we've taken out potential expense out of there. But you see we're funding a lot of our big projects out of the Growing Community Fund Reserve and so on. So, you know, you have roads that you're putting in 300, and I think we're taking out $300,000, and maybe, or in the operating, sorry, we've taken out $100,000 into the operating one. And then there's gas tax and things like that. So this is just a visual of where we are with our reserves. The net impact of all these is $1.1 million reduction. Just moving into property taxes, just a reminder that the property taxes notices are made up of several government agencies. The District of Clearwater is usually about 58%. School tax last year was 24%, and the regional district was 10%. And there's a few small ones there as well. Looking at it a little differently and comparing some of the communities that we looked at, some communities between 1,900 and 3,000 population. Just looking at the different components of the tax notice, it goes, you see the blue line is school and the orange line is what the general municipal tax, that's what we're talking about today. And it changes depending on where you are in, or what you are, which community you live in. So here, this is a slide that's same kind of, oh, sorry.
Sorry, you got a question?
I just wanted to ask, this category for total residential user fees on there, can you give examples of what those user fees
Those
would
user
be?
fees would be water and sewer or garbage, or depending on what they are, have in their community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Following on just looking at where we are with the rest of the, some of these similar communities, again, the population of 1,900 to 3,000. Our average home is about $406,000. Our general municipal for 2024 was 1,377. The average home we're about the same as all of these communities in the average home assessment, and we are about the same also in general municipal taxation. Yeah. So this slide is something unique where I've just posted the BC average on there. So the average home in BC is about $800,000, and the average municipal taxation is about $2,057. So there's 159 communities in BC. If we were to rank these communities from lowest to highest, we would be 50. So we're depending on how you say it, the top third or the least third, whatever it is, but from 1 to 50, we're the 50. The least amount of taxation is paid in Wells. The highest taxation is paid in West Vancouver. They're number 160. The West Vancouver. It was number 160, yeah. Yeah. Wells was, I think it was $354 or something like that. Taxes collected by class, we are collecting taxes, a majority of them are collected by residential, then business, and then utilities, or residential, utilities, and business. Last year, we collected $1.5 million from residential, $1.1 million from utilities, and $670,000 from business other. Just wanted to remind everybody that property assessments and taxation aren't necessarily correlated exactly the same. BC assessment goes through several cycles. Right now, we're at our completed roll cycle. So for the staff to complete the tax rate bylaw, we will have to wait for the final roll. The revised roll, the preliminary results of the district here for non-market change. So there's, when you're looking at taxation, there's market change, which is basically what the market is doing and what you pay for your homes. Non-market change is when you add to a class or you remove from a class. So when we add homes, we have a non-market change that adds to the class, and it redistributes the tax burden over more units. So what we found in 2025 is 0.68 increase. So it's not a decrease. And for business, it's 1.28 business other. So we're seeing more business class assessment based on for new items. So this is just a quick slide. It is from BC Assessment webpage, and you can see that residential homes, their assessments went up 2.4%, and the business other went up 9.5%. And this becomes important because as soon as the rates go up, if you don't change anything, you'll see an increase in taxation in one class versus the other. So going forward, we have, I think last year I had like 4 options. This year I think we have 2. So if we did nothing to the ratios except for maximizing the utility class, we would see the residential rate increase by 14% and the business other by 0.78. So it's significant. And what that would mean, it would mean that would be about $15 a month for residents and $3.50 for business a month. If council so chooses and we adjust the ratio, so we adjust the major industry and the light industry and the business other to 3.5, the highlighted items there. And then I maximize the utilities, because that's always what I have to do, make sure that we're at the maximum there. We get to a residential rate increase of 9.98 and a business other increase of 9.4. So both classes get the same increase. Just to show it just the 2 options as a percentage of increase. To show both options as in your monthly cost. And just to show both options in the total annual change between one option and another. So option 1, the annual change was about $181. Business was $53. Option 2 was $126, and business other was $516 in option 2. Remember last year we had to make some adjustments to those rates, and we're seeing that reflected now. before I move on, is there any questions on property taxes? Seeing none. Just a summary, the capital projects are $2.8 million. We're looking to have tax revenue at being 7.9% over 2024. We're paying down debt of $35,000, and we are drawing down reserves and surplus by $1.1 million. Those are our summary for this financial plan. So if we move forward, we plan to adopt the financial plan bylaw April 22nd. Adopt the tax rate bylaw May 6th, and then continue on with legislative reporting and other reporting, and then start the process over again very soon. And these are the resolutions that we are looking to get support.
Discussion.
Thank you for all that. That's a heck of a lot, once again, and a lot of work. And thank you for the detail in the presentation. I still love the one graph that shows the in and out and the balance in the middle with all the waves. Colors are fun sometimes, not for everything though. Just noting that 7.9, I believe the TNRD was coming in at 8.3. City of Kamloops is exactly in this range. There's lots of people around us that are coming up with the same thing, and a lot of it is driven by the fact that we're settling labor contracts and signing long-term road maintenance agreements. That's why we're at this point, and that's why it's somewhat solid around this number, because of those reasons. And it's that one in sort of 4 or 5 year blip that we do these things. Thanks.
Councillor Simp.
Thanks very much. So the difference between what we've seen previously and now, a lot that comes down to some of the security suggestions, so that we do the whole project as one and not spread that over 2 years. So there certainly does have a financial impact to that with this particular budget.
Yes, it has an impact on your reserves because we were funding that through our reserve.
Okay. That's helpful to know there. Last year, we came up with a really strong narrative about the fact that we had made some increases to it and that they were those extra funds were going to be put into the road reserves. What would you suggest would be some of our good news stories that we would be sharing out of this budget?
I think the capital projects, as well as the special projects, you have some really good strategic projects that you are looking at. Lots of public safety projects, OCP plans, like I think there was also the, did you want to go? The OCP, the development approval process, we're still working on that.
If I could chip in there a little bit.
Yeah.
While Linda's digging out some more good news stories, I think one of the real strong good news stories is the fact that we have so much grant funding for necessary projects. And there's more announcements pending fairly quickly that I can't really talk about in an open meeting at this point, but the bridge is a classic example, right? That's a $3.5 million project, which looks like it's 100% funded at this point in time. There's still work on the budgets and everything else, but 100% funding. A critical project to the community because it's such an important link, and yet the province is recognizing that they need to step up. So there's some good news stories like that, and there'll be a few more of those coming out in the not too distant future. And one of the other projects Director of Finance Clausen mentioned was the OCP. So that's a once in a long time project that we need to do. Again, fully funded, but it gives the community a chance to get engaged in the visioning process and how they see the town developing. So some good news stories there, I believe.
Thank you, CEO Johnson. I was just going to mention that the infrastructure needs attention, and I think with this budget, we are looking to bring attention to that infrastructure with the bridges and things like that, and planning for the future.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry, just about to, hold on a second. Of course, I'm trying not to sneeze here. It just came out of nowhere. Council had a brief coffee date with MLA Steve Morissette this morning. He is the parliamentary secretary for rural development. So is coming through on his whirlwind tour of BC. And one of a lot of the themes that are in our budget are themes that he's hearing from all the communities that he visits: public safety, infrastructure deficit. So a lot of the things that we're struggling with here are the same things that a lot of other communities are struggling with, and it is causing a lot of financial strain and the definite need to do a lot of this with grant funding, because it just is beyond the economic means of small towns, especially like ours that has somewhere, I'm still going to go with 72 kilometers of road for 2,600 people, which is an incredibly high ratio. It could be more, it could be less. We find roads, we give up roads. It's a thing Clearwater does. A lot of the things that we're looking at here, including the OCPs, I was having a conversation yesterday with the CAO, and apparently there are something like 50 OCP projects happening at the same time in this province, but that's not surprising because lots of communities with the new legislations are out of date, and we're all having to try to fit OCPs in a very short window with a limited number of experts on OCPs. So we'll have that conversation a little bit in depth later, but there's a lot of things to consider here, and we're not alone in a lot of our struggles, is I think the point we're getting to.
Councillor Bratton?
Do we need to make a decision on these two options? Is that, or was that just for us to visualize?
Move one.
It would be good if council could provide direction, so when I do go to bringing in the tax rate bylaw, I don't bring in something that council doesn't want.
Yeah.
Councillor Ship?
To follow up on our earlier conversation about 37 East and some of those projects that are in there, I think we've got some money allocated for the Dutch Lake Corridor. Is that money going to be utilized based on what was being said with the engineer's report? At the last meeting, there was maybe there was going to be a delay with it. So just making sure that that line item is being utilized for this year.
So for this year, through the chair, the funding will be spent on the engagement and the engineering, and then the development of plans, not on the actual building of 37 East. We do have some reserve funds pertaining to that, which will still remain, I believe, and I stand to be corrected by the Director of Finance on that.
We have $181,000 in the budget for 2025 for the park improvements regarding 37 East. If we need to make adjustments, we can.
But I think there was one for the actual corridor. Is that going to be needed, those funds? And I'm just trying to find it.
It would be in the special.
So I think it's 32, Dutch Lake Community Corridor intersection, 32,000.
Yes.
So that those funds will be utilized. Okay. And then the only other one that I wondered, again, in conjunction with our previous conversation, we only have $57,000 allocated for economic development. So if that becomes a priority, is that something we should be also looking at enhancing?
That's a good question. I think we need to know what we're doing before we assign funds to it, so we could do an amendment or find another source at a later date. And economic development is one of those things that generally there's the opportunity through things like ETSI to apply for grants to do. But I think we need to know, we need to make a decision at council what we're going to do moving forward. Are we going to do it when opportunity arises, or are we going to do a contract that has a certain number of things doing? But that's a whole very broad conversation that we need to have.
Any further discussion? Nothing? Okay, we've got two recommendations on table.
I'll move recommendation 1.
And seconder? And all those in favor? And it passes. And recommendation number 2, that the committee of the
Opposed.
whole recommend to council that the sewer security project for 45,608 and the water security project for $171,708 receive early approval.
Did you move that, Councillor Sim, or was
No.
that a question?
No, it was just to note that you can put me down as opposed for the first recommendation. Thanks.
I'll move recommendation 2.
Seconder? And Councillor Sim, and all those in favor? And it passes. And that's it. Adjourn the meeting. So recommendation that the 18th of March 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting be adjourned.
So moved by Councillor Frizzle.
Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Bratton. All those in favor?
Hey,
See you in a few minutes.
we'll be back in 24 minutes. I'll call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 at 2 p.m. I would like to begin by acknowledging we're fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded land of the Simpcw people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any light items to be added to the agenda? If not seeing any, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor? And that passes. Are there any declared known conflict of interest or pecuniary interest that anybody would like to state at this point from council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7.1. Julie Kimmel, Economic Development Report, and I see Julie is online today. Whenever you're ready, Julie, go right ahead.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I apologize for all the reading that you had to do with everything that was attached here. And I just wanted to, start by saying that although I was only with the DOC under contract for a little under 6 months, that I was really impressed with everything. And you know, the district itself, the business community, and the community organizations all working to ensure that Clearwater continues to be a beautiful place to live and attracting businesses with similar visions. Community economic development plays a vital role in shaping the future of Clearwater by focusing on local strengths such as small business, tourism, natural attractions. CED fosters sustainable growth while addressing economic challenges. It empowers the community to take charge of its development, integrating social, environmental, and economic goals to create a thriving and resilient local economy. Initiatives like enhancing tourism, supporting local businesses, sustaining relationships with key players, not only attracts investment, but it also improves the quality of life for residents. And you have so many key documents already in your possession. The economic development strategies that were put together prior to my contract with the district are what I used really to create the work plans. And moving forward, I think that these documents should be used again to create work plans. And I believe that the continuation of economic development in Clearwater in terms of positioning is vital. And I don't know if people have questions based on information that was provided. I would.
Any questions so far? Okay, thank you. No questions so far.
Okay, well, as part of documents, you saw that there was a wayfinding audit, and that's kind of step one in the project and the process of wayfinding. The next step in that is step two. It's worth probably about $50,000 to $60,000, and that is really where you start to integrate, where the design schemes and placement of any signage, lighting, pathways, etc. It's really sort of the meat of the project would happen, and I feel like that's really important to continue with. So I'm hoping that I've done research on grants and such for this wayfinding, or step two for the wayfinding project, and it's a little tough now. Unfortunately, it would be a couple of years ago, there were a number of grants that might be applicable. At present, there are a couple that could kind of manipulate a little bit to fit in for part of that funding. But I do think that this whole wayfinding project is extremely important for Clearwater to kind of bring together the community from the residential perspective and also from a tourism perspective. Fostering community partnerships, I don't know if that needs a lot of explanation. I think that is always important and ongoing, and that speaks to also the morale of the community in general. You did receive both, I believe it was a bookkeeping and the care aid program should have been part of the attachments. Great. So the bookkeeping program came about as I was speaking with the various businesses, and what seemed to be a consistent concern was the lack of bookkeeping services. And so I think that, again, there's probably many residents who might be interested in taking on something like bookkeeping. And so I worked with TRU and their Trades, Technology, and Community Capacity Building Department to come up with a program that could be a fit for Clearwater. A lot of that is online and easily accessed. And with both this and the other programming, the Care Aid came about actually because my presentation in October, I believe it was, the mayor actually brought up that would be something that would be, or he felt that was really important for the community. So I went back and worked again with the same departments to come up with a programming for that, which I think they worked really hard at putting this together. And I think that that's quite a wonderful program. It would mean that we would seek from Work BC some funding also per seat. And I was looking through, which I didn't see, which I should have caught earlier. I don't know how many seats are required to run that program because it is a cohort. And the mobile, there would be, TRU would come up and teach a portion of it. And then at the tail end of that program, there would have to be transportation to Kamloops campus to complete that program. But I mean, that's a really in-depth, fantastic program. And what it would do, again, all of this is part of keeping residents in Clearwater versus having people leave to find employment, et cetera, elsewhere. Yeah, and we've got working with SIMP Resource Group. Again, I've got a great contact and was in, I won't say negotiations, but certainly conversations about creating something in Clearwater that is similar to the market that is in Barrier presently, which is flourishing. And yeah, and there is a definite interest, and the response was sort of, we will meet again in the spring, was where we left off here, just because the Barrier market is still new and they want to just ensure that that's off and running before doing something else. But there was definite interest in Clearwater as well. And I think that in terms of development and economic development could prove to be a fantastic relationship. Working with small and medium enterprises, I'm not sure how much needs to be said about that. It is always extremely important for the resilience of the business community. And I think having somebody with boots on the ground in Clearwater, working with the small and medium businesses, when I went door to door, and a lot of it was face-to-face, some of it was via email and phone calls also, but what I got from the business community was, wow, this is great. We are so thrilled to feel like the district really cares and thinks that we're important and has somebody coming and speaking with us. And I think that that's not something that's difficult to continue and is vitally important to the community. And when a business community is happy, it's easier to attract more business to the community. Yeah, and I think that's it. We're meeting with the realtors again. That was discussed a bit last October. That meeting went very well, and there was expectations that those meetings would continue, and then joining in with that would be meetings including developers. Yeah, so I think again, these are all things that they were started, and it would be fabulous if they could continue, because I think it's only positive for the community in the district.
Thank you. Yeah, I share a lot of your thoughts there. I found some of the comments, especially in the report from the minutes from the meeting with the realtors. A lot of those same frustrations are frustrations we also hear as councillors and actually also feel. So yeah, the council needs to have a discussion about moving forward with further economic development initiatives, whether it be a continuation of this model or a different model. For sure, I see that in the work here, and thank you for those reports in relation to TRU and options for programs there. We had Parliamentary Secretary Steve Morris he's responsible for rural development today in the office. for conversation and talked about the needs of this community in relation to senior citizens. So that Care Aid program and programs like that, there's definitely a gap in this community as an opportunity for either private or public operation that would hire people like that to do that sort of work here in town. So there is a lot here to unpack for sure, and I thank you for your report and your work. Are there any questions from councillors or comments from councillors on this at this point? I am not seeing any, but we're going to have another conversation about this, Julie. So thank you for your time, and we'll move on. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
I was totally expecting some more comments on that, so I gotta flip my thing over and get over to the next page. So item 7.2, grant and aid request for the Children's Arts Festival, and there's a delegation report. And Alex McGilvery, are you here today? Yes, you are. Come on up. That's not Alex. Nope, Alex is not here today. I just saw a blur without my glasses and went, that's not the person. So, no, Alex is not here today. Okay. Anyways, you do have this. So yeah, Councillor Sim.
keep going.
No, go ahead.
So this was such a good thing for the community. It was great for the kids. It was great for the summer. It was also a great deal of work. It does raise the question about, I think we had put out some calls for interest for the art committee. How many people applied?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Sim, through Mayor Blackwell. We have not got the application process out yet to get the people in for the Arts Council committee yet. That is
Okay.
still coming. There's just been some technical delays on the iCompass back end of it to get the application process out.
Okay, so in light of that, council had set aside $5,000 for work done under that committee. Is that right, Ms. Klassen? While there has been some delays with the committee, it would be good to see this up and going. Is there a way that we could draw upon those funds, consider those funds? Are there any suggestions that staff might have for this?
Yeah, so from what I understand, this request form is for in-kind, so there's no funds really related to it, but we could also do it with our grant and aid budget. We have room left for this.
Yeah, and I appreciated the fact that it was in kind, but I think that there's more to it than I think there's going to be some things to come up, but because it really falls under that vision of council and how we wanted to invigorate art within the community, is just looking to see if that $5,000 would be, noting that they didn't ask for it and they aren't here to speak to it. So it's my question to you on that.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if you can answer that, so.
All I know is if they would like a grant and aid, they could complete a form. We've put through the process, we get council approval, and we would have a value at that point. And it would go to our grant and aid budget. And I think we have room in there for quite a bit of room for 2025.
Okay. Councillor Bratton.
What do we have left in our grant and aid at this point? Sorry, pop quiz.
Sorry, I don't have it on the
Okay.
top of my
We can
head,
get back to you on that one.
but we can get back to you on that.
Yeah, thank you. Further questions or comments?
Yeah, so supplemental on that one. So I think that we were running pretty close to the line on it with that. Or you feel that there's, so I just still haven't don't quite understand is if we exceed anything through the grant and aid, is it an option to look at those funds that we've set aside for the arts committee?
Oh, that was the question you're answering. I couldn't quite
Trying
get
hard,
to
you
that one.
guys.
Is that, I think that's tied to a council resolution for the Arts Council and for public art projects. So,
I would be happy to answer that. I'll send
yeah.
at a later time. I just don't have it all on the top of my.
Yeah, and again, it's only for the enthusiasm for the project and what it brought to the committee. And in light of the fact that we don't have the arts committee as of yet, just looking to leverage different assets that council has set aside for strategy on this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further questions or comments on this? It is an interesting, I do remember this program. It was fabulous. I think it's something that would be fantastic to revive. I also do remember that it did get an awful lot of sponsorship from, in fact, my company's on there. My former company's on there. I was like, I had a little acid flashback there. Probably the wrong term, but yeah, to note that I'm like, is this for the coming one or a past one? No, it's a past one. Whew, I'm lucky today. But yeah, there was a lot of public and business sponsorship in that, and I do remember the same situation that they really, they came to various people like the District of Clearwater for sponsorships, but quite frankly, they didn't really need the cash. They had almost everything covered as far as that, so it was in kind in the past as well. So, but yes, yeah, I'm expecting the same level of enthusiasm in this community because kids and grandkids are so important to everybody in this community. So. Moving on to public and statutory hearings. So I get to read the opening statement for public hearings for the second time in the last couple months. This is a reminder to council to put away your cell phone to ensure no further information is being received. The public hearing is being convened under the provisions of the British Columbia Local Government Act to hear submissions relating to a zoning amendment bylaw number 317/2025. Bylaw number 317, a site-specific zoning amendment to the C1, a general commercial zone to permit a veterinary clinic within the existing building at 205 East Old North Thompson Highway, Lot 1, District Lot 2905, KDYD, Plan 39350. This is the public's opportunity to make representations to council. All persons present who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard. I would ask those members of the public who wish to speak to please commence your address to council by clearly stating your name. The main function of this public hearing is to listen to your views. Council will not debate the matter of the proposed bylaws with individual citizens, but members of council may ask questions of you following your presentation or comments. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. Your only opportunity to comment on the proposed bylaw is during the public hearing, as members of council may not receive further submissions, verbal or in writing, after the close of this public hearing. I'll ask the corporate officer to confirm publication of the notice of the public hearing as required by legislation, and if there are any written submissions for council to consider.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Notice of public hearing was published in the Clearwater Times on March 6th, 2025, as well as March 13th, 2025, as required under legislation. We received 27 written submissions before the preparation of the agenda. They're all attached in the agenda. Since then, we've received 4 additional letters since the Friday, and those will be attached in the minutes of the agenda. The meeting report. All were in favor.
All were in favor. That was going to be my question. Thank you. So 31 in total. Okay. So call for a first time. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation to council on this matter? Come forward and state your name.
Yeah, hi, I'm Eric Kitt. The only thing I want to say, I'm 100% for the veterinary clinic to be there. It's just greatest idea. I guess I'm the only one that would really be affected at all because I live right across the street, right next to the motel.
Okay.
And the only thing that I would like to see is that there will be a specific zone fenced off for the dogs that come and whatever other animals to be able to relieve themselves instead of, I've gone to a lot of different veterinary clinics out in the woods, and there's dog poo everywhere, and you're walking around, and as long as they're just contained, they have an area to go and they use the area instead of just being able to run freely, or because there's a lot of owners that they think it's kind of funny to have their dogs running around and it doesn't bother them, but there's a motel right across the street and stuff, so it's just I don't see many of those areas that let the dogs relieve themselves instead of just they take them for walks down the street, and next thing you know, it's like, wow. And you guys just put in that walkway right along there too. So it would make just nothing but sense to have a particular area just for that.
I'm assuming you're stating on the veterinary clinic property.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, just an area, you know, people are waiting and they always have to let their dog out, and next thing you know, they're walking in front of the motel or whatever, they don't realize that. But they have to go somewhere, but as long as they have an area that they can use, and
Yeah.
that'd be fantastic. But besides that, it's the greatest idea.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for your
you.
comments. Were there any questions for the speaker? No. Okay. Calling for a second time. Is there anybody who wishes to make presentations on this? And calling for a third and final time. Is there anyone who wishes to make comments or presentation on this? If not, there being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. Okay. And at this point, we move on to adoption of council minutes for the regular council meeting held March 4th, 2025. Were there any errors or omissions? If not, can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Herring, seconded by Councillor Bratton.
No, they don't. Ben?
Just a second. So this comes back later in the agenda for actual reading and vote by council, just to let you know.
If you want to.
Okay,
Or watch the YouTube.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Anyways, so moved and seconded on minutes. All those in favor? So adoption of the minutes of committee meetings. There was multiple recommendations or multi-part recommendation. The recommendation that from the committee of the whole as of March 18th, 2025, meeting be adopted as presented. One, that council direct staff to commence preparing the 2025 to 2025 financial plan based on a revenue generated from taxation of 7.9% over 2024, and that the capital and special operating projects be included as amended by council. Do we need to move these as two separate items? One item?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All one item.
Okay, and the second part is that council authorizes a sewer security project for $45,608 and a water security project for $171,708 receive early approval. Questions or comments before I go to moving this? Councillor Bratton?
Are we adding that other option in here? Is that under this?
Sorry, what other option?
The tax option there. They needed an answer on that before we left the other.
Right. So can
But
we
I don't
just
know how that
clarify?
factors in.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Klassen, do you wish to speak to this?
So I'm sorry, excuse me. We could discuss it now, or when I bring back the financial plan bylaw, I can bring that portion back again, and we could talk about the tax rates, because the first option for us is, or the first item for us is to get the financial plan bylaw written and adopted first, and then we go to the tax plan bylaw. So I can bring it back at our next meeting.
Councillor Sim.
So what I'm understanding you say is that there's still room for discussion and possible changes pending new reports and information that are coming forward.
I don't think our financial plan will change the result of the 7.9%. It should all, from what I understand, I mean, there could be some items there, but I just need to move forward with providing that financial plan bylaw. But at the next meeting, we can also talk about tax rates.
Okay, Councillor Herring.
So to clarify, this resolution is to set the overall requisition at 7.9, but the weighting of which classes of property owners pay what percentage of taxes would come back at the next meeting.
I can bring it in the next meeting so that we have a fulsome discussion,
Okay, perfect, thank you.
if that works for council.
I see a follow-up by Councillor
Yeah,
Sim.
just a follow up. So we've had some different discussions, just even in the committee of the whole. One of them related to economic development. We've just had a plan. So if there was any projects or anything that council would want to see in the 2025 budget, where would be that window to discuss it, or would that have to then be moved to 2026? And if there were any subsequent discussions that came out of the in-camera and some of those possibilities.
So whatever discussions are today, I can add them into the financial plan, as long as council approves that. Once we bring the financial plan bylaw to council for the readings and the adoption, after that point, there will be an amendment. So then we will just track it through amendments. The issue being, the financial plan bylaw must be adopted prior to the tax rate bylaw, and we have a deadline of May 14th, basically, to do that. So, and they're just looking at all the meetings for council, this is how it lines up. We could always do a special meeting if council so wishes.
Does that give you the answer?
I'm just going to say that I'm going to, reading the room, I'm going to vote no, and just go from there.
Okay. So there is one recommendation, two-part recommendation. Sorry, Mr. Prime, you had a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if there is issues on one of the recommendations, we can split them into two, just in case Councillor Sim didn't want to be opposed to both.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the motion's on the floor right now as both, so again,
Hasn't been moved or seconded.
Teresa, Councillor Bratton didn't?
I thought. No, that's a question instead. She did not
That's all
move
right if it wasn't recorded as such, so that's fine. I would prefer two recommendations.
Okay.
Would be very
I'm
kind,
okay
thanks.
with that, if everybody else is okay with that. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve recommendation one, that council directs staff to commence preparing the 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw based on revenue generated from taxation at 7.9% over 2024, and that capital and special operating budgets be included as amended by council. So anybody wish to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Mathis. And seconder on that, Councillor Bratton. Further discussion? All those in favor? And that passes. Opposed, noted, Councillor Sim.
Thank you.
And then recommendation two, that council authorize that the sewer security project for $45,608 and the water security project for $171,708 receive early approval. Can I get a mover on that one? Councillor Sim moves, seconder. Any further discussion? I think it was Councillor Frizzle was the seconder on that.
I'll do discussion, if
Yeah,
I could.
discussion, yeah.
Just the discussion is that in early renditions of the budget, this project was staged over 2025 and 2026. And I really appreciated staff bringing it forward, that it made a lot more sense to do it all as one, recognizing that there are some financial implications, but with the input that we received from lots of different consultation, including the online survey, protecting our infrastructure is really important. So I think that this is a valuable project to move forward on.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Bratton.
Are we allowed to shut the door? No? Okay. I'm highly distracted.
Okay, thank you. So that passes. Okay, we move on to item 11.1, RZ-2404, 205 East North Thompson Highway, third reading. There's staff report. Any further questions on the staff report before we go to that reading? Okay, just give me a second to pull up that page 79 of your agenda package. So, I'm seeing, is that Ursula online in case we have questions?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we've had this report before. If council has any further questions on this, if not, we can move the motion. Not seeing any further questions. Do I have a mover and a seconder on the bylaw? Okay, Councillor Sim, you're moving, seconded by Councillor Bratton. District Clearwater bylaw number 317/2025, a bylaw to amend District of Clearwater zoning bylaw number 133, whereas an application number RZ-24-04 for amended to zoning bylaw number 133 has been made, and whereas the desired changes and uses of land have been considered, and whereas the zoning amendment conforms to the District of Clearwater official community plan, now therefore the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater zoning bylaw number 133, amendment bylaw number 317, 2025. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. So that comes to adoption at the next council meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson or Mr. Prime?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the next step on this one is getting Modi approval on this. It will be forward to the ministry as soon as possible, and then we wait to get their approval. And if we don't get it soon, we'll be following up, tracking it through.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sim?
So just on that, so the third reading would be dependent on Ministry of Transportation and their input on this?
Or adoption?
Or adoption, sorry, adoption. Right, and there's no way around that, given, okay.
That is regulated, Councillor, due to the proximity of this to Highway 5. Typically, you with dealing with the ministry, you get just a signature. There's not a lot of suggestions for change, although it is possible, I guess. So.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm asking is because I think it's quite extraordinary to have had 31 letters to come through. So if there was anything that we could do on our side, I'm just asking for that. I'm sure that the property proponents are interested in moving ahead if they have any deadlines. So just needing to clarify, we've done our best to all we can do. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Ursula, you look great today, by the way.
thank you. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. If there was any way we could speed it up, I would love to, but it does need the Moti signature. And I'll just add, they have no concerns at all about this one. So it's just about getting them to sign the bylaw, and we're going to send that off as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thank you for your work on this. There's a lot of people in this community and their pets just chomping at the bit. Probably.
Yeah, literally. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing under 12, unfinished business. Mayor's reports. A few things coming up off the top of my head. I had mentioned we met with MLA Steve Morissette this morning. At the end of the week, we'll be meeting with Forest Minister Ravi Parmar here for a lunch meeting in town here. He's doing a tour of the province, I think 6 or 7 towns doing the same thing. So I look forward to that, and especially the conversations on wildfire and things like that, risk and value added wood products, possibilities for our value, and other sort of logging related, forestry related issues that we have around here. I've asked for input from a couple of people in town, but if you have suggestions that we of other people, please reach out to them and have their comments forwarded for that conversation. That would be fantastic, councillors. So I attended the value added session last week on forestry. That's by the Robson Thompson Valley Added Value Coalition. Sim First Nations is sponsoring that. PCTS is involved. It was quite a good day session. There was over 50 people there. A lot of conversations about how we could use some of the timber and some of the extra products that are created from logging and milling and basic forest products, other things in this valley. One of the comments that came up that I keep forgetting about, but I've heard before, is that much of the industrial land in Clearwater has a restriction on it that it can't be used for mills or other wood-related products. So industry. So I think we need to have a conversation when we're having a conversation about economic development about why that is, and if there's anything we can do about that. The end of this month, I will be flying to Victoria to meet with Health Minister Josie Osborne in discussion as Vice Chair of the Hospital District in relation to the cancer clinic and some of the concerns of the oncologists and doctors at Royal Inland and other practitioners in Kamloops about the design of that facility. I'm hoping to have a conversation about some of our needs at our local hospital on the side of that. If I'm going to travel for basically 2 days to do that, hopefully I can get 15 minutes on the side as well to discuss our local issues in relation to recruitment, retention, and needs in this community. And I'll leave it at that for now. Councillor Bratton.
I'll just play with my mic for 5 minutes. Not much to report. Was at the meeting today with Mr. Steve Morrison and Adina, and we were able to discuss quite a few things with them. One of the items was our bus service, and bringing him up to speed. He wasn't aware of what actually happens with that transportation service, and hopefully going on Friday. And that's about all I have to report for now.
Thank you. Councillor Frizzle, go ahead.
Thank you. I also attended that meeting this morning, and I found it quite informative, and that he was quite anxious to hear what we had to say. So that was good news. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councillor Herring.
No update from me this time.
And Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Not a lot to report. I was able to attend that meeting with Steve Morissette this morning and Adina Brown. Yeah, informative. It's nice to bring them up to speed on some things that they were unaware of, and dealing with all the rural development stuff. They do know a lot of our issues. It's not just here, it's right across the board. So in one sense, it was kind of reassuring to hear that these problems aren't just isolated to our town anyways. So no, that was a good meeting with them, and I will be attending Kofi here at the April 2nd to April 4th. So looking forward to that. There's always lots of good information to come out of there, and you're speaking of value-added stuff. It'd be nice to see something done with that, and that's the place to find those guys up there that have the information we need to maybe move ahead with some of these projects, or can bring some projects into town in the future here. So, and other than that, that's been about it for me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll be interested to hear at Kofi, because I'm hearing this is a bit of a lobbying effort with other communities. Not necessarily true fire smarting, but about fuel reduction, spacing and things around communities, as a way of using some of that very small scale timber that's going to be removed from some of those projects for added value added projects around towns, small scale mills and operators versus the larger scale. And that will be one of the topics that I have on my list for Minister Parmar on Friday as well, so that we can do that. So I'd love to hear what happens at Kofi for that.
Mm-hmm,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Thank you.
Councillor Matheson.
Pretty quiet, a couple of weeks, nothing to report.
Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. My first question was for the Ministry of Forest. Is he speaking with major partners up through the valley? Like, will he have already met with Intrafor, Gilbert Smith, or do you know?
He's having a meeting in Barrier. I do not know if it's, I know he's meeting with some First Nations and Barrier Council. I do not know the rest of his itinerary. I just know about what we're doing here.
Okay, no, that's great. Thanks very much. So just over the past 2 weeks, the skating carnival was probably the best ever. Just to encapsulate that, there was over 30 performances that were done. That is 30 costumes. That is 30 different choreographs. That is 30 hours times a million for the work that was done there. And I know that we always sort of have discussions about what taxes fund, and that Sportsplex is certainly one that we do. And there were over 91 skaters who participated in it this year, and it is their big opportunity to showcase their skills and their talents. They've got unbelievable coaches this year, all local. And what was really interesting is when I did the Raft River speech competition, is that there was 2 of the young skaters, and they were talking about what their ambitions were in life, and they both said that they hoped that they could be as good as coaches as what they had for skating. So just seeing some of the work that was done, sports and our facilities really allow different skills and talents to be fostered. So I'm grateful for what this district does for the Sportsplex. And the speech competition was fantastic. If we've got any worries about inflation, I can assure you that last year when I judged it, they said the topic was, what would you do with $1 million? This year it was, what would you do with $1 billion? So just
So is that 2 cartons of eggs or 3?
2 cartons of eggs, and yesterday's butter at $7.99 a pound. So yeah, there was a lot, and they were very, very empathetic about recognizing that their peers, some of those families are having rough goes, and that was brought out in their speeches, and how that their $1 billion would be spent on their friends and making sure that they had enough to eat. So it was really heartening. And then lastly, last week, SD73, they met with the TRU Board of Governors, and some of the key topics that were there is the impacts of immigration and what that will have, not only on school populations, TRU populations, but also populations as a whole. So the data that's coming out from the ministry is SD73 in the next 5 years will be down 1,500 students. Which is a massive impact. And so what does that mean for operational budgets and all of that? So if we think that there's tensions around this table for budgets, it's felt at every single level there. So just being sort of alert to that. And the other big conversation that was had was the CARE program and how to bring that to Clearwater. Under some of the agreements. So for example, the welding program, the carpentry program has been brought here. SD73 continues to advocate to bring that CARE program as part of that dual credits program. So it was really nice to see the outline and how maybe that could be shared. And if we've got the local TRU representative, maybe there might be some windows for that. And then the other one is the education assistant, because that's also equally in dire, especially as we hear from a number of our sectors that are saying childcare is one of the paramount needs in order to foster, their own home economics. And that's it. Thanks.
Question to you on the CARE Aid program, maybe, and actually the second one as well. Has there been any sort of survey among students and within SD73 or even our local areas to sort of how interest in that?
Yeah, so there is interest in, and what I find even interesting is the CEA and what we see with some of the local daycares is how many CSS students have actually gravitated towards there. So it is a really good way for students to be able to look at some extra training that is outside of the trades that have been offered, for example. So there certainly is, and it's been on TRU trying to, well, how do we bring it there? And I think that if there was advocacy, what we've seen today in this report, it would just really bolster that. And I think that there's room for those conversations. TRU used to be really active. We've had these conversations at this table before. It is time to push it again, because these are 2 areas that would be an imperative, especially for young employment opportunities. That CARE Aid, you can launch into other fields within healthcare. Same thing with the childhood education assistant. Like, these are great programs that youth can ladder into. And in that, the funding for it under the K-12 model, it's covered. So if students who were at CSS or even Barrier, because we could find a way to partner between the 2 communities, that tuition is paid for. Mm-hmm. So it's a really valuable thing that hopefully we can move on.
Yeah, that was brought up this morning, and it also brings me back to, with the parliamentary secretary, this need to re-engage TRU, his loss, and Councillor Frizzle spoke eloquently to that. And there was 2 other topics. One of them was transit centralization, regionalization, and what was the second one that they requested report back on? And it's slipping my mind totally now. It'll come to you. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that one, the loss when TRU seemed to change management there of those programs that were offered in this building, and the one next to Raft River in past day, and the loss of a local coordinator for that has put a big hole in all sorts of education opportunities in this town that really hasn't been filled. And yay on School District 73 for trying to fill some of that, but we we do need to push for that one for sure.
And I think certainly around some of those partnerships, because some of the pushback is, well, where will they do their practicum? Well, we've got a really active organization that would do that. Some of the ideas that have also, could be floated is, how do we transport students, let's say, from Barrier to Clearwater? Well, there is this yellow bus that goes between. So how do we link into some of those different opportunities? What do we do with the regionalization of transit? Like, there's answers to the obstacles. I think and I do think that would be something, especially in light of the economic development report, that council could write a letter to TRU, to SD73. That's part of our strategic plan. It's a great area of advocacy.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay. Anything under CAO report for this meeting? No comments. Okay, so moving on to item 16.1. New business staff reports, enhanced fire smart mitigation crew proposal. You do have a report, and I believe that staff will be speaking to this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to cover this off a bit. We have this proposal in front of us. As you're aware, the District of Clearwater wildfire risk is increasing. Clearwater was identified as one of the highest risk small communities under 30,000 by 2050, thanks to the potential for climate change. So some of the scenarios. We have several other contributing factors. Without having had that fire, a large fire in the valley for the last 100 years, as well. So having heard that, we hear it loud from the community in terms of what more can the district be doing to help mitigate some of these risks. As part of that, we were looking how we could potentially boost the Fire Smart program while certainly minimizing the impact on taxation to the community. That we do have some of our working within constraints there. As part of that, we looked at LGCAP funding. That's the Local Government Climate Action Program, which we were also looking for projects to spend those funds that we've been receiving on. So there was a very clear synergy there between the two. Climate mitigation from climate hazards is part of the LGCAP funding. What have we been doing so far for Fire Smart? I'm just going to kind of transfer it back over to Mr. Breckenridge, our Fire Smart coordinator, just to kind of talk about what we've already been done, and then I'll kind of go into what we're kind of looking to change.
Good day. Thank you for listening to me. So far with the Fire Smart program, just to reiterate, I took this position in July, and there's definitely been an uptick, particularly since that report had come out about the Clearwater being the highest rated burn probability. It really scared a lot of people, and definitely we'd rather have them thinking about the proactive versus the reactive, waiting till fire's here. That's what the Fire Smart's all about, is the preempt or the proactive preventative approach, getting your property ready and prepared to help mitigate those potential hazards if we have a fire event. So to date, I've done 87 home ignition zone assessments. I have 6 wildfire mitigation assessments in progress. The wildfire mitigation program assessments, the homeowners actually have to book online through Fire Smart British Columbia. It's a way more in-depth involved assessment that gets uploaded to Fire Smart British Columbia for that, and that's, it's an ongoing process. I come, I have my tablet, it takes 2 to 4 hours depending on the property, and I really dissect the vulnerability of the home, and it gets uploaded. They can view their assessment and they can work on those, and then I can revisit, at a designated time to see if they've mitigated any of those vulnerabilities. I've been continually holding public events for education purpose and try and get that engagement and discussion happening. I've been getting a little better uptick on attendance. The viewing of the test I felt was pretty successful. I had approximately 41 people there. They really liked the documentary. There's a few more documentaries coming out that I plan to have viewings as well. I held a chipping program in the fall. I've kind of revamped that. I had planned on having another one this coming spring in lieu of the Wildfire Preparedness Day, which is May 3rd. And so going to be doing another chipping program. I'm going to be looking at possibly doing a registration kind of form for folks that are interested in taking part in the program. Gives me a better idea of accountability. I actually got that idea from the Barrier Fire Smart coordinator who had me down last Saturday to support her with her luncheon. So she is relatively newer to the program than I am, and so she wanted to pick my brain and see what's been working, what's not, and you know, I'm all about collaboration and brainstorming. I was at a Fire Smart regional district meeting last week in Kamloops. There was, I don't know, 60 to 75 people there, and it was a great session. Like, there was lots of great discussion, great engagement, things that I could take to, you know, make me more an effective coordinator in my position, even, you know, my position on the fire department as well. I've connected with the high school. There are some treatment units in and around the high school that we're actually going to be utilizing high school students to do some of the hand treatment. There are other communities that really use this to their advantage as far as getting that youth engagement, the youth education. They're learning a skill. They get some school credits in certain situations. Pemberton Fire Smart program actually used them to do all kinds of buildings in around town. They fire smarted around their local museum, which I thought was really, really cool. I'm working with the nursery on trying to implement the Fire Smart plant program, which you know, bring in plants that are more fire smart than others. Fire Smart provides the tags. I just get the tags. I set it up with the local nursery, and then we can push that. There is a nice landscaping guide that actually shows graphs of different plant, shrubs, bushes that show moisture content, flammability, and so on. So it's a really good resource. What else we got here? I'm constantly developing myself as far as my training and education in not only the fire service, but the Fire Smart program. There's continual education as Fire Smart evolves more and more. And my two current crew members who are just on call casual, there's education and training for them always ongoing. As the program gets bigger, I'm gonna need more local Fire Smart reps underneath me. I'm gonna need another wildfire mitigation specialist underneath me, who you need that designation and that course to actually implement the wildfire mitigation program assessment, which is the more involved one. You have to take that course to be able to deliver that. An LFR, local Fire Smart rep, can do the home ignition zone assessments, which are the paper assessments. May 3rd is, like I mentioned, Wildfire Preparedness Day. I'm planning on holding an event at the Splash Park in Weyerhaeuser. I've been chatting with Roger Mayer about that. It's just a community event. We come out, we have a barbecue. It's a big, you know, public opportunity and an education opportunity. And we're picking up of sticks and just very low risk, minimum, just tidying things up. So I'm following up more with Roger about that event day. Yeah, and there's continual roundtables. You know, there's the wildfire roundtable. There's also the Fire Smart meetings that are always going on. So I'm always just kind of reaching out, not only in the regional district, but broader, just to get more ideas, more training, more education. Next month, I'll be going to the Wildfire Summit in Penticton. That should be about 800 people there, and that's all that is Fire Smart discussion, wildfire preparedness discussion. I actually just had a call today from one of the Fire Smart heads. She's a head educator for BC Fire Smart. She wanted to connect with me on a few things, including letting me know that she's heard down the channels that, you know, Fire Smart in Clearwater here is really taking off for how short it's been kind of in existence. So it was really good to hear that higher up parts of Fire Smart are hearing about what we're doing here. So we had some good chats. Yeah, it's kind of what I've got as far as what's been going on with Fire Smart so far.
Thank you. Well, that's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Chance. And as you can, it's a lot that's going on, but one thing you might notice that was kind of missing was large scale, some of the mitigation efforts, right? And that's what this proposal is really looking to do. At the very crux of it, it's looking to take those 300 part-time hours that Chance has working under him for some of the very limited work he can get done in a year. And according to the Fire Smart grant specifically, it's very limited to, vulnerable sector populations, seniors, only those properties, and 300 hours just doesn't go very far for that. So this is looking to boost it to a total of 1,920 hours, divided over 3 positions over the, seasonal, over the kind of shoulder season and summer. And what this will allow for is a much broader scope of what can be done for Fire Smart mitigation efforts, including expanding onto different types of private property. In terms, that would be sort of identified from the fire chief and Fire Smart coordinator in terms of high risk kind of border areas where they might be able to go and get permission, of course, and get more advanced fuel mitigation into it, as well as along roads, ensuring that roads are better protected, as well as a lot of the public infrastructure. So, like you're saying, the high school or district land, district parks, covering those all off. So this is entirely, at this stage, we're proposing that this pilot project be fully funded through LGCAP funds. That includes small capital purchase, one-time capital expense of $55,000, which is going to fund a chipper for the program. We're going to need to utilize the chipper quite a bit more extensively throughout the season. Can't be burning, a lot of these piles that you're creating when you're working. As far as strategic priorities, this does align exactly with item 5, addressing climate change, and emphasizes continued Fire Smart implementation. The pilot project would go for 3 years up until 2027. It is expected that we would continue to get LGCAP funding. However, we would still reevaluate the program to ensure that there still is the need, that we haven't done all the work we need to do, and evaluate that in 3 years' time. As far as that, I do have a slew of recommendations. It is one resolution, one recommendation, but we're all here for questions if council has any.
Questions of staff on this? Thank you for the report. Mr.
Sorry, if I might add, just to go along with, this specific funding, one of the big workshops that's going to be going on next month at the Wildfire Summit is how to source other funds, because they know there's only a limited amount of funding specifically for Fire Smart. And we're running into that everywhere. I mean, like Elsa had mentioned about, we have a little bit, and if, obviously the more money the merrier, we could Fire Smart the whole town, based on money and time. So that's one big component of that Wildfire Summit is additional funding, and that came up last week as well. We're actually going to be forming a subcommittee to find out where can we get more money for field mitigation, Fire Smart.
Chasing grants and other funding sources is always a thing for things like this, but I am glad to see on the page top of page 98 that there's no anticipated taxation impact for the initial 3 years. I highlighted that in the report when I was reading this. I also would be interested to hear from your conference whether or not there are any conversations about bylaw and other means of communities asking or suggesting to landowners that the need to Fire Smart their properties. So if that conversation comes up, I would love a detailed report or any presentation that you get on that back. Questions or comments? Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. So over the next 3 years, and I agree that page 98 was a great page, no taxation, and a great way to utilize the existing funds that are there. Will there be a tracking to make sure that there will be? So we will have a budget in 3 years. If it was successful, then we will know exactly what we need to be possibly including for subsequent years.
We can track it as a separate project if council wishes.
Okay. My second question on that, and that follows what the mayor was just asking about, is grants and different sources. Councillor Herring had brought to the council table a few weeks ago about having a really interesting meeting with a group. I'm wondering if any movement has been made on that to bring that to council, bring it to another meeting, but it sounded like you were quite optimistic about that being a resource of sorts.
Yeah, I've put that ball in CAA Johnson's court, so I'll leave it to him to answer.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor Frizzle.
On this increase of hours from 300 to 1900, is that including you or is that your crew?
Just mitigation crew.
Just your crew. Your hours are already set. This is increasing your crew. Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Councillor Herring.
No further questions or comments, but I will move the recommendation option 1.
Okay, do I have a seconder on option 1?
Second that.
Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you for the work on this, staff, and thank you for the report. Moving on to bylaws. We do have bylaw under 17.1, District of Clearwater Officers and Delegation of Authority Amendment Bylaw number 321, 2025. There is a staff report, but this is for adoption. And just let me find the bylaw, but do we have a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Fizzle. Do you have a question, Councillor Sim?
Yeah, I just wondered if there were some highlights that you wanted to bring forward, and how many of these changes did you feel were being brought forward as a result of the Fire Smart program, if any? Or is it really just housekeeping? Am I in the wrong report? I could be. A lot of blank looks there.
Yeah, first.
Page 113. Go ahead,
Sorry
Mr.
about
Johnson.
that long pause. Could you perhaps clarify that question, Council?
So when I read through the report, there's a lot of orange. Am I on the right report?
No.
Okay, well then you can, no wonder you're confused. Sorry about that.
Okay. So this has been moved and seconded. District of Clearwater bylaw number 321, 2025. Huh? Was not moved and seconded. Oh, sorry, it was moved. It was moved but not seconded. Seconded by Councillor Bratton. District of Clearwater bylaw number 321, 2025, a bylaw to amend the District of Clearwater Officers and Delegation of Authority bylaw number 146, 2015, whereas section 137 of the Community Charter provides the power to adopt a bylaw, includes the power to amend or repeal it, and whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater wishes to amend the District of Clearwater Officers and Delegation of Authority bylaw number 146, 2015. Now therefore the Council of the District of Clearwater in an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater Officers and Delegation Authority Amendment Bylaw number 321, 2025. All those in favor? And that is adopted. Thank you. And then we move on to item 17.2. This is your question. Fire Department Regulations Bylaw number 233, Amendment Bylaw number 322, 2025. There is a staff report, and then obviously questions on that. Is that you?
I can speak to it briefly, probably answer your questions right away.
Yes.
I love the fact that you listen. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this one's got a couple of changes. Some of them are definitions that have been added from the Fire Safety Act. And then the other one is some legislative housekeeping as well from the Act for designating fire inspectors and fire investigators. It's part of the Act, so that's a class or persons that can do those functions for the district. That's all this is right now.
And so that was previously done by who?
It was previously done by me, but the Fire Safety Act, when it changed, it came into effect last year, the regulations have started coming out. This is one of the regulations we need to change who's designated as a fire inspector and a fire investigator for the district.
And did I read correctly in there that that does require, it will require some training, but you feel that that's manageable under what you've got?
Yeah, it's, so right now I already am a fire inspector. I've reached that training criteria. The investigator, they've added more to it, so I don't have that, but they're offering an 8-hour online course for free sometime mid-March. So I'll take that, and then whoever else, like our officers, will be taking that as well, so they can assist as well. So yeah, it's manageable for sure.
Okay, so the summary is that this is just housekeeping, and it's just being, it's keeping up to date with what the province is asking.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions on that? Thank you for that. Yeah, there's a lot in this one, but
Yeah.
obviously, especially with the emergency management legislation that came down a couple of years ago, I remember seeing it SILGA, I think 4 years ago. We knew there was going to be a lot of heavy lifting on a lot of files like that related to that, because that act hadn't been changed in 100 years. Do I have a mover and a seconder on this? Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Bratton. Any further discussion? Okay. District of Clearwater, bylaw number 322, 2025, a bylaw to amend the District of Clearwater Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, 2021, whereas section 137 of the Community Charter provides that the power to adopt a bylaw includes the power to amend or repeal it, and whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater wishes to amend the District of Clearwater Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, 2021, now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meetings assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the Volunteer Fire Department Regulations Bylaw number 233, Amendment Bylaw number 322, 2025. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Oh, and a second time, right. Yes, can I get it? That was for the first and second time. There is a second recommendation there. Moved by Councillor Fizzle, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Was that you seconded that? To be read for a third time. District of Clearwater bylaw number 322, 2025, a bylaw to amend District of Clearwater Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, 2021, whereas section 137 of the Community Charter provides that the power to adopt a bylaw includes the power to amend or repeal it, and whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater wishes to amend the District of Clearwater Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, 2021, and now therefore the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, Amendment bylaw number 322, 2025. All those in favor? And that has been passed for a third time. There is two items of correspondence with a request for action. Anybody wish to speak to these? Or comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor.
The Interfor letter is quite frustrating from my perspective, although absolutely agree that we need to help advocate for a change in our forest industry. The contribution of Interfor to our community is the part of the letter that I take issue with, and I suggest if they want a letter of support that they could find it. We'll hide it on Camp 2 Road, and if they ever grade, they'll find it.
You can go ahead with that. Councillor Sim.
Have we had any meetings with Interfor in recent times? Where are we at with that relationship? We used to meet them, but I don't know where we're at or what has been done.
We've had a couple I've had a couple conversations with Eric Koch and other members of Interfor in passing. But not probably in 6 months or so. We did have the offer of a mill tour, which had a conflict of interest, and so did another councillor on, but no councillors were able to attend that. So I have a feeling this summer that that offer will come again to tour the Adams Lake facility. So if we can get that in far enough advance, it would be good if at least 2 or 3 councillors and myself could attend that. So we could wave the Clearwater flag with Interfor. To your question, do you see any action items that you would like addressed, Councillor Sim, maybe with Interfor? Because I'm quite sure a conversation can come up.
And maybe this is an opportunity to ask our CAO if he has had any dealings with Interfor. Maybe this would be a good opportunity to have that meeting and raise some of the community concerns. I think Camp 2 was an excellent example. There at Road 2, but to be able to make that relationship. They are an important part of our economic landscape here. And have you had a chance to meet them? And should the mayor facilitate a meeting?
Thank you, Councillor. So to date, I've not met them at Interfor as a group. I have had conversations with Interfor's forestry people who look after roads, including Camp 2 Road, to try to come up with a resolution on how we, for the community purposes, see that better maintained. Because as you know, if Interfor is not logging and using that road for industrial purposes, they don't maintain it. So we've been having some conversations there. I gotta say they're very challenging conversations from the sense of difficult to come out with an arrangement that actually works for the municipality and serves the needs of Interfor. So those conversations are still continuing, but it is challenging. And when there's something more concrete to report to council, I'll be happy to do that. That is in conjunction with the TNRD is having some of those same conversations about the same issue on Camp 2 Road, the lack of maintenance when it's not being used, right? But again, as far as a broader conversation with Interfor as a group and what they can bring to what they bring to the community and how we can enhance that relationship. No, I have not had that.
So maybe, Mayor Blackwell, maybe we should turn it back as based on the meeting on Friday. Is that a time in preparation for Kofi to look at doing some sort of a round table? We've talked about that. Is now the time? We've got some new pressures that are being faced to the industry. Where do we hear the touch point from our local contractors and what they're feeling and needing?
That was kind of why I was putting out there that we wanted to have some input from locals before that meeting. So, like, you definitely have contacts in that. Others have contacts within this industry about maybe some of their pressure points. But the meeting on Friday, I expect a lot of it to rotate around wildfire risk, but there will be definitely added value and other forestry topics addressed at that meeting.
Do you think that they're going to be ready to address some of the proposed tariffs that are coming, or is that too premature for that conversation?
I don't know if that's our table, but I'm quite sure if you ask that question, they would have an answer to that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments on these two letters? Moving on then, comments from the public. Any comments from the public today? No? You coming up? Just state your name for the record, thanks.
Yeah, my name is Danny Beauregard. I own DB Tree Care. I just saw that you have a $50,000 grant for 5 years. Is that per year or it's divided for 5 years?
Sorry, so
5,000.
the grant relation, that's the climate change? Maybe I'll just let Mr. Prime or somebody else.
I believe he's talking about the chipper. That's for purchase of a chipper.
Oh, for purpose of purchase.
This is just for the purchase of the chipper.
Correct.
Yeah.
And does the district ever consider to hire local with a crew that's already trained to do the chipping and all the stuff for the fire mitigation?
Yeah, when we have wildfire mitigation contracts, especially the Crown one, we've done that for years now. Especially when we get a grant for doing that on Crown land. At this point, we've pretty much exhausted most of that, but there is the opportunity, and that's part of this larger discussion on fire smarting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about places like North Thompson Park and some of the places we treated, the district helped treat or manage the treatment of.
I know Argo are working toward the park this week, but for the two next week.
Yeah, that one just came up where they are. I got a notification from Ministry of Transportation that I forwarded to council that they'll be brushing roadways up Clearwater Valley Road all the way to Helmucken Falls this year.
Yeah, they're gonna try to clean it better than what they did on Highway 5, because what they did on Highway 5 wasn't pretty at all.
It was, yes.
Well, there's full of brush, so that's a big fire hazard. And
you need to actually remove the same thing goes with.
Well, I had a big discussion with Ryan Argo yesterday about that.
Good, yeah.
DB Tree Care were supposed to be on that project over there, but they decided to do it in house. But that's the thing, like there'll be a 4-man crew.
Yeah.
But like I told them, like I can put a 4-man crew with 2 different crews will be way faster than 4 guys that barely do chipping. And
in a lot of what we're talking about is sort of an amalgamated thing of doing fire smart risk assessment, and then things where there's no contract for that. It's basically
well, I just like,
district
I know that
assets.
TNRD reached out to me to put a bid on for a chipping project as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think there's going to be, hopefully this will stir up a lot of interest, as it has in the past, in this type of work on private property. There is a definite need in Clearwater, and this is a conversation that will come up with the Minister of Forests on Friday, and has come up at pretty much every opportunity that I have to talk to people, is finding a way to get the message through to people that own sort of even medium or large land holdings in Clearwater. I mean, at the value added conference, I said, I think I have over 50, large fir trees on my property. I've done the fire smart mitigation on my property, but it's an ongoing process. I have those skills. I have those tools.
Yeah.
There are,
It's not everyone that has the same
not
skills and
everybody
tools
should
and
be-
knowledge neither.
watched enough YouTube videos. There are tons of people that need to step away from the chainsaw. I think we can all agree on
that's
that.
100% true.
Especially
That's
when it
100%.
comes to falling, the lack of safety gear that's seen online.
And that's a problem I have with like District Forestry Council is I have to pay $30,000 to do a falling ticket when just the homeowner can fall any tree they want on their property. But as an arborist with 15 years experience, I wasn't able to charge you to fall a tree more than 6 inches.
No, and all that kind of regulation done for all the right reasons.
I'm all for
the-
training. Like I spent a whole
this-
bunch of money last year in training for.
Of the 50
business.
people that were at the conference that we had here on value added timber, that exact conversation about the very high cost of training a faller, certifying a faller there, that it's actually upwards of $60,000 if you factor in all the things now.
I'm about 40,000 in right now.
So that we're losing, I have my ticket. We're losing a generation of people that are
That don't want
qualified.
to do chainsaw work anymore.
And don't want to take the risk. And so there is a lot to that conversation going on. That said, I think for people like you, there is going to be a lot of work in the next 5 or 8 years for sure.
My other question is, does Interfor has any plan to get rid of the brush pile along like Road 2, 3, 8, and 6?
We'd have to find that out.
Because last year, fire got caught in a brush pile that had been sitting there for at least 10 years. On Road 3. So there's just like some old brush pile that just waiting to get caught on fire.
It would be an interesting conversation to have with the people that monitor at the local forestry office here.
Okay.
That's really good information.
Thank you.
I know. Thank you. Further comments from the public? If not, we have a need to move to in camera. There's a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91 of the community charter to discuss matters relating to K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And I, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98, annual municipal report. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Matheson. All those in favor? And we will take a recess till 3:30. Thank you.